In 2014, a team of cognitive neuroscientists at Columbia University conducted a series of experiments on insight timing, the precise moment when a person suddenly understands something that had eluded them for years. Participants were given complex puzzles that required not just logic, but perspective shifts, the ability to see familiar information differently. What the researchers discovered was striking. Moments of genuine insight didn't occur at random, nor could they be forced by effort. They appeared only when the brain's activity dropped into a slower rhythm, the kind associated with rest, openness, and emotional safety. In other words, the mind doesn't reveal truth under tension. It waits for stillness, for readiness. That discovery quietly confirmed what mystics, philosophers, and poets had been suggesting for centuries. Awareness has its own clock. No amount of willpower or impatience can accelerate it. Some truths simply arrive when the self is capable of holding them without breaking. Revelation isn't withheld. It's postponed until you have the spine to hold it. Every life passes through invisible thresholds, seasons where meaning hides behind fog, not because it's lost, but because it's premature. The intellect may crave understanding early, but the emotional body matures more slowly. We can know what's true long before we're stable enough to live it. That gap between comprehension and embodiment is where most confusion is born. It's tempting to treat delay as punishment, as if life were keeping secrets out of cruelty. But the universe, if that's what we choose to call the field of unfolding intelligence we're part of, doesn't withhold to punish. It withholds to protect. Sometimes the truth would collapse the version of us still being built. So reality waits, patient, exact, merciful. Confusion, in this light, is not failure. It's gestation. The psyche hides what would burn through too quickly. It edits perception, softens edges, gives us time to grow into our own clarity. What we call blindness might actually be grace. If you think about it, no revelation ever truly comes from outside. Every new truth was already present, orbiting quietly in awareness, waiting for the right internal conditions. Understanding is less like discovery and more like alignment, a tuning of frequencies between what's always been and what's finally ready to see. That readiness doesn't arise from effort. It grows from surrender. The nervous system, so long accustomed to bracing against change, must first learn safety before it can risk transformation. We can't awaken while flinching. That's why some lessons repeat for years, circling the same emotional landscape. Life keeps handing us the same pattern, not as punishment, but as practice. Each time we move through it with less resistance, we increase our capacity. Eventually, one ordinary morning, we wake up and realize the lesson never changed. Only we did. Readiness is that invisible turning point, when curiosity finally outweighs fear. It's not a moment of triumph, but of quiet allowance. The intellect loosens its grip. The body exhales. And in that space, something rearranges. We stop negotiating with the inevitable and let reality touch us directly. The universe doesn't test us. It waits for us to stop hiding. And hiding takes many forms. overanalysis, cynicism, self-improvement disguised as avoidance. We cling to the idea of control because uncertainty feels like danger. But control is the opposite of revelation. Truth only enters through the cracks that control tries to seal. When the defenses finally exhaust themselves, awareness rushes in, not as an explosion, but as recognition. There's a psychological term for the experience of receiving signs at just the right moment. Apophenia, the human tendency to perceive meaningful connections between unrelated events. But recent studies on perception suggest something subtler, that synchronicity might not be about external coincidence at all, but about internal readiness. The brain filters billions of stimuli every second, allowing through only what seems relevant to our current sense of self. When that sense shifts, so does what we notice. So the sign was always there. Attention simply wasn't tuned to it yet. The message didn't just appear. You finally tuned to its frequency. This is why moments of deep clarity feel both new and familiar, as if you're remembering something instead of learning it. Awareness doesn't add information. It removes blindness. We often say, "I wasn't ready back then," as if readiness were about maturity or discipline. But readiness is less about time and more about texture, the density of consciousness, the elasticity of the heart. It's about the nervous system's ability to stay open without collapsing under weight. You can't force yourself to see what your biology still interprets as threat. That's why insight often follows breakdown, grief, or stillness, not study. Pain slows the system down. It humbles the intellect and softens the grip of certainty, creating room for what was previously unbearable. Pain, then, isn't the opposite of revelation. It's preparation for it. What hurts today is stretching the space where tomorrow's calm will live. Certainty, for all its comfort, is the greatest barrier to truth. The ego insists on understanding before surrender, on naming before feeling. It believes knowledge will keep it safe. But revelation doesn't bloom under interrogation. It arises when questions are allowed to breathe. Silence isn't the absence of progress. It's the soil of it. Understanding flows in not through analysis, but through presence. That's why the most profound moments of realization rarely come in the middle of deliberate effort. They happen while washing dishes, driving, walking, watching light change across a wall. The mind relaxes its architecture, and in that relaxation, the obvious reveals itself. The truth hides behind your need to rush it. All along, reality waits for our resistance to soften. It doesn't demand devotion or perfection, only availability. Awareness can't be scheduled, only received. What's postponed is never denied. When the soul finally grows spacious enough, the same world that once looked fragmented begins to make quiet sense. The events that once seemed random align like constellations, not because fate has changed, but because perception has matured into coherence. That is why hindsight feels mystical. The same pattern that once felt cruel begins to reveal intelligence. The heartbreak, the delay, the silence, all of it starts to show its structure, the quiet choreography beneath what looked like chaos. We realized that meaning was not absent. It was waiting for the self to stabilize enough to bear it. Awareness is not linear. It spirals, circling the same truths from higher ground each time. Life will keep revisiting lessons until the body no longer trembles at their arrival. The moment we stop fearing repetition, it dissolves. The timing of revelation is rarely merciful to the ego. It arrives late enough to humble us, but soon enough to heal us. By the time we receive it, we no longer crave the drama of enlightenment. We just nod, quietly, recognizing that what we finally see had been here all along. The mind is designed to predict, to protect, to build continuity. It resists change because change means vulnerability. But the deeper intelligence that moves through experience, call it psyche, soul, or consciousness, is not interested in comfort. It's interested in expansion. And expansion requires the temporary dismantling of what once felt safe. When people speak of divine timing, they often imagine a cosmic schedule, a hidden hand orchestrating events. But perhaps divine timing is simply biological wisdom, the alignment of perception with capacity. The universe hides nothing from us. It hides us from what we are not yet ready to integrate. And when readiness ripens, revelation doesn't come from outside. It erupts from within, the way dawn breaks not into the world, but into the eye that sees it. There's an old saying in developmental psychology: growth is the loss of innocence we can survive. We could add, revelation is the truth we can bear without shattering. Every stage of awareness requires a partial forgetting of what came before, a soft amnesia that lets the self reconfigure. The psyche conceals pieces of reality to protect coherence. It waits for the day when seeing more will no longer mean losing balance. This is why spiritual awakenings often follow exhaustion. The mind, having run out of strategies, surrenders. The nervous system, too tired to fight, finally opens. And in that openness, the hidden becomes visible, not as light flooding in, but as resistance melting away. The truth wasn't distant. It was obscured by tension. Confusion, then, is sacred. It's not a fog to be escaped, but a cocoon to be endured. Inside confusion, something reorganizes. The old neural pathways that supported illusion begin to dissolve, and the self hesitates in the gap between identities. That hesitation is painful, but it's also where clarity is born. The brain literally reweaves its connections during uncertainty. Old predictions die, new ones form. We call it patience, but it's actually neuroplasticity. The timing of awareness is not arbitrary. It's biological compassion. The psyche knows that insight delivered too soon would destabilize the structure that needs it. So it releases truth in doses, a wisdom built on pacing, not punishment. Each revelation arrives with the tenderness of exactness, not too early to overwhelm, not too late to be irrelevant. Eventually, the fear of not knowing becomes smaller than the fatigue of pretending to know. That's when understanding enters, quietly, without applause. The universe doesn't test you. It waits for you to stop performing readiness. It waits for the mask to slip, for the body to unclench, for sincerity to become stronger than pride. And when that happens, the same circumstances that once felt meaningless suddenly align. Patterns appear where chaos reigned. What was once pain begins to feel like preparation. The past doesn't change. The interpreter does. Every revelation we have ever received was rehearsed by the life that preceded it. Every heartbreak trained us for nuance, every failure for depth, every delay for endurance. Pain stretches consciousness. It creates the internal space that later holds calm. The wound, once integrated, becomes the architecture of wisdom. Nothing is wasted. The waiting, the wondering, even the blindness, all of it is material. The psyche uses everything. We like to imagine awakening as a single moment, but in reality, It's a slow unveiling, a series of recognitions soft enough to not destroy the ego that houses them. By the time awareness completes its circle, the self that demanded proof has quieted. It no longer seeks revelation as spectacle, because revelation has become daily, the steady noticing of what was always present. That's why the mature soul doesn't crave new answers. It trusts that what it needs will surface exactly when it can be lived. It no longer chases insight like a prize. It tends to life as participation. The need to control understanding dissolves, replaced by intimacy with unfolding. The most profound transformations are rarely visible. They occur in the silent rewiring of attention, when fear stops being the filter and curiosity takes its place. From that moment on, truth is no longer something to find. It's something to allow. Reality doesn't change when we awaken. It clarifies. The universe doesn't deliver new messages. It reveals the ones that have been speaking all along, waiting for the noise to subside. What changes isn't the world. It's the eyes that finally learned to see. And maybe that's the secret hidden in all our waiting, that we were never being kept from truth, only being taught how to receive it without collapsing. The delay was the initiation. The silence was the preparation. The confusion was the bridge. Awareness doesn't rush, because it doesn't need to. It arrives exactly when it knows we'll stay. Nothing is wasted. The waiting, the wondering, even the blindness, all of it is material. The psyche uses everything. We like to imagine awakening as a single moment, but in reality, it's a slow unveiling, a series of recognitions soft enough to not destroy the ego that houses them. By the time awareness completes its circle, the self that demanded proof has quieted. It no longer seeks revelation as spectacle, because revelation has become daily, the steady noticing of what was always present. That's why the mature soul doesn't crave new answers. It trusts that what it needs will surface exactly when it can be lived. It no longer chases insight like a prize. It tends to life as participation. The need to control understanding dissolves, replaced by intimacy with unfolding. The most profound transformations are rarely visible. They occur in the silent rewiring of attention, when fear stops being the filter and curiosity takes its place. From that moment on, truth is no longer something to find. It's something to allow. Reality doesn't change when we awaken. It clarifies. The universe doesn't deliver new messages. It reveals the ones that have been speaking all along, waiting for the noise to subside. What changes isn't the world. It's the eyes that finally learn to see. And maybe that's the secret hidden in all our waiting, that we were never being kept from truth, only being taught how to receive it without collapsing. The delay was the initiation. The silence was the preparation. The confusion was the bridge. Awareness doesn't rush, because it doesn't need to. It arrives exactly when it knows we'll stay.